Thank you, Erica. Director of the Miami-Dade Police Department, Alfredo Ramirez.
Good afternoon. I'd like to speak directly to the victim's family and everyone in our community that's concerned right now. I want to assure you that we are doing everything we can to bring information to the families. We are all in this together. We are all hurting. We know that the families are very upset. They're in a lot of pain, but we ask for painful patience. And I know that's a hard ask, but we have to. This is a tremendous task that we're all involved in right now. It's very dangerous, and while we're putting the work on the ground, those families are suffering. Our officers and our counselors and social workers are with them right now, trying to console them, waiting for dire news or good news. What we all have to do, like everyone has said here, is stick together, pray together. These are very difficult times, and things are going to get more difficult as we move forward. As we move forward, it's going to get harder, and those families are going to suffer. So I ask, please, rumor control, please do not share any misinformation. We will give you the information that we can give you, because those families are depending on that, and I want them to know that we are here for them. Estoy hablando directo a la familia, decirle que estamos sintiendo tu dolor. Nosotros sabemos que está ahora sintiendo bravo, que hay muchas cuestiones. Quiero que ellos saben que estamos haciendo todo lo que podemos hacer para traerles información. Esta operación es muy duro, muy delicado, y yo sé que como cuando estamos haciendo este proceso, ellos están sufriendo. So, quisiera decirle a ellos que no le vamos a dejar solo. Tenemos nuestros detectives hablando con ellos, dando información, y por favor hay que controlar los rumores. Cuando tenemos información te la vamos a dar, porque es muy importante que no damos información que no es correcta, porque las familias van a sufrir. Gracias.
We're going to go into the questions and answers. Let's try to keep it in an orderly fashion so that way we can do it. So if you raise a hand, we can go ahead and point. Oh, wait. Yeah, they were going to give it to her to tweet it. And to tweet it out. Give me a second. Go ahead. And please direct the question to who?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everybody, but I'm big. I'm sorry.
My mic is on Yeah, I see somebody's mic there. Hold on. Shit. It's okay. We won't go without you.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
It's okay, we're all excited.
So Mayor Lemicott, Elizabeth Tabucci on Channel 7. Do you have any idea why this happened? That's the big question right now. Why?
Yes.
Any indication? I know it's early on, but do you or Miami-Dade Fire Rescue any idea why this building collapsed?
So at this point, we have engineers on site. Structural issues, obviously, the building did collapse, so we want to understand what happened, but also what risk there might be for the remaining buildings. So it's a structural engineering question, and through our fire rescue department, they have engineers as well. The city of Surfside is also working with structural engineers.
Is Miami-Dade Fire Rescue the lead on trying to figure out why?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I could answer. Well, I could answer that. Miami, the fire department is doing the search and rescue. Once they release the scene, the Miami-Dade Police Department will then conduct that investigation as to what is the causes. But right now we're focused on the search and rescue. When that moment comes, that dire moment comes where they transition command, then we will be in charge of the investigation. That's why we're here. We're holding the traffic scenes right now, providing support. We have all our assets here. And once that transition comes, we'll be part of that investigation. Our homicide detectives will be doing a death investigation with other partners, and it'll be very similar to the FIU Bridge tragedy.
So even though it will be a structural engineering issue, it will be Miami-Dade Police taking the
There'll be other assets that'll be coming once they stop the search and rescue component.
It's probably federal.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead, man. It's okay.
well, as well, there'll probably be federal
Yes.
resources involved in the investigation as well.
Brief question, and this is probably for fire rescue. If you don't mind, just for people watching, so we can be clear, the 102 people who have been accounted for at this time, not necessarily from the collapse, just rather the structure in its entirety, people who were evacuated from the building. That's a question. And then regarding the search efforts under the rubble, can you speak at all to whether anyone has been located in that? We've heard reports of people hearing sounds, trying to locate
All right, so to echo the mayor's numbers, so in combination to our numbers this morning, so we had 35 victims that were pulled from the structure by fire rescue. This is an additional 2 victims that were pulled from the rubble. Now we had a total of 11 patients that were treated. Of those 11, now we're up to 4 patients that have been transported. Now we have been getting what we call, again, sonar, sound devices that we're getting from inside the rubble in various areas. And again, it is a very slow and methodical process because every time we start breaching parts of the structure, we do get debris that falls on us. In regards to the structural engineer, we do have structural engineers that are embedded with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue to prevent the building from collapsing on our firefighters as we continue with this search and rescue phase. Again, since 1:48 a.m., Miami-Dade Fire Rescue has not stopped. Again, the optics may seem that there's nothing going on top, but all operations, I cannot emphasize enough, all operations are occurring underneath the rubble. They're occurring underneath the parking garage where we have teams of firefighters constantly as they continue to making cuts, breaches, and placing sonar devices, search cams to locate victims. As we make one hole, we access a floor, we continue to the various areas. But to answer the question, we did receive sounds, not necessarily people talking, but sounds, what sounds like people banging, well, not people, but sounds of a possibility of a banging. Short of that, we haven't heard any voices coming from the pile.
AP? We got an Associated Press.
Yeah, to clarify, there was a report around 4:15 or so saying that 2 people had been pulled, or 2 or some number had been pulled from the wreckage this afternoon. That was an incorrect report.
That's correct. Correct.
Correct.
The only numbers that we have for patients that were removed from the actual structure or rubble is the 35 and 2. So a total of 37 have been pulled from the structure itself.
New York Times. Is there any concern associated with the stability of the building at this point?
Situations of this nature where there's an emergency, there's been a catastrophic occurrence with a structure, there's always going to be a concern. But again, we do have structural engineers that are embedded with Miami-Dade firefighters. They assess the structure every hour. In addition to every hour, they conduct the assessments every time there's a weather shift. What we do is we just make sure that, again, we place seismic devices on the building to determine that any stress cracks, enlarging. From there, we also make sure that we don't have any shifting of the floors. Every time we make a breach underneath the ground, we do have some debris that rains down on the firefighters. And again, what we encountered was some shifting of the debris, and eventually we did have a small fire which was extinguished within 20 minutes.
Over here, you're next.
What do you guys want to say today? We've had some conflicting reports on whether or not all of the units that are still standing have been cleared, whether some people have gone into it to actually ensure that they've each been cleared. Can you confirm if that's...
Yes, ma'am. So prior to 6 a.m., every structure, every apartment unit that's still standing was cleared by Miami-Dade firefighters. They were placed with markings, and a primary clear was given. Again, we're referencing the actual building that's still standing with the apartments that were still intact.
Sir? Oh, sorry.
Kerry Sanders from NBC News. I'm curious, for the families that are waiting for news, how do you give them hope but not false hope?
We understand, what they're going through, and every firefighter, is carrying that burden on their shoulders. They're trying to find these individuals, and as they continue with, making these breaches, making these tunnels, we're trying to locate these victims. But again, every possible resource that not just Miami-Dade County, but the municipalities around us, local, state, and federal, are being expanded to assist with this situation.
Is there any indication that Beach was sinking? We know there is this FIU researcher who says he's familiar with that building and that the beach was sinking.
I have no information. I have no information on that.
Okay.
Sir?
Do you have an update on fatalities? Do you know what fatalities were?
I'll defer that to Miami-Dade PD.
As of right now, unfortunately, we have 1 fatality. That's what we account for right now.
How about unaccounted?
1.
A man or woman?
Unknown. I don't have that information.
How many unaccounted for?
It's 99 unaccounted for right now.
One more question.
At
One more
least.
question. Sir.
That's our Eric from Sonic American episodes. If you had to take an educated guess right now about collectively how many first responders are participating in this search rescue effort, what implications and vacations before we catch up?
Yes, hi, Alan Kaminsky, Fire Chief, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. Right now we have several teams, so estimate of our Florida task force, we have up to 40 members that are conducting the search and rescue, as Chief Jadala mentioned, in the parking area, as well as, we have multiple units on scene. So, at one point we had over 100 firefighters, and we still currently have 60 plus that are actively working, and we rotate through the scene. No, as of now we had no injuries of any firefighters, any personnel.
How many rescue dogs?
We currently have 4 that we've been rotating through.
Thank you, folks. The leaders are going to get back to work.
Thanks, about asbestos with firefighters lasting. I know this is a building. There's a lot of dust. Are any precautions? Anything you can say about the risk?
Definitely, when we make entry, we wear the necessary proper respiratory protection. So we have the proper protection on.